Anyways, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Always a pleasure to learning together. This class is part of Darisha Spring Zman. Today's class is discussion on the Parashah. This week, Tetzaveh with Daphna Nizan. You're welcome, other than participating verbally, you're welcome to write questions and comment here in the chat if you're with us on Zoom, or as a comment on Facebook. If you're watching us live, welcome to you as well. Please stay muted when you're not actively speaking, and remember to unmute when you're ready to speak again. I'll help mute people, so just kind of make sure to keep track of that. And then just a few words about Daphna Nizan, who is the Overseas Program Coordinator at Yeshivat Darisha. She holds a BA in Tanakh, Talmud, and Jewish Art, as well as an MA in Talmud and Teaching certification from Bar Ilan University. She has worked for the Lockstein, I apologize if I'm butchering some of the names.
It's okay.
Lockstein Center for Jewish Education, and taught in MMY, TVA, the Darisha High School Summer Program, and the Hartman High School for Girls, as well as for many summers in Camp Mosheva. She has studied in Midrashet Lindenbaum, Matan, and is a graduate of the Advanced Gemara program in Migdal Oz, in addition to studying in their Halacha program for 3 years. She's currently learning and coordinated the overseas program at the yeshiva. So with that, I'll turn this to you, Daphna.
Okay, thank you so much. It's really good to be back here, although I have to disclaimer, I'm not feeling the best, so I hope we'll still be able to have a good shiur, but just stay with the beginning. Just a little personal catch up. It's been a while since I last taught, and that was like at the very, very, very beginning of the war, and a lot of crazy stuff going on. And we had moved to my parents' house in Modi'in, and my husband was in Miluim. Since then, things have calmed down a little bit. We moved back home. And my husband's been in and out of Miluim, but he's been home now for almost 2 months, and he's set to go back to Miluim next week for another 3 weeks. Bezrat Hashem, he'll be home before Purim, but it's just a little personal catch up of where we are here in Israel, at least personally. Okay, so 2-hour Parashah. So this is a little bit of a strange parsha to focus on because it's actually part of a larger sequence of the whole second half. No problem. Of Sefer Shemot, which deals with the Mishkan, the command to build the Mishkan, the actual building of it, and the Chanukah of the Mishkan. So we're first going to just remind ourselves kind of what we've seen up until now, and see where our parsha fits into this larger sequence, and then we're going to focus on a few specific things that seem to be in the wrong place or strange that are in our parsha. So now would be a good time to grab a Tanakh. If you don't have one, we're going to do some reading inside the Tanakh and some reading on the source sheet, which I'm going to share on my screen, but you also have a link to it. Yes, Evie? Source sheet? You have it? Okay, great. So let's open up to the end of Parshat Mishpatim. Shmot Kaf Daled, Pasuk Tet Vav. Okay, so Parshat Mishpatim ends with Moshe going up to Har Sinai for 40 days and 40 nights. Let's just read these psukim at the end of Parshat Mishpatim. ויעל משה אל ההר, ויכס הענן את ההר, וישכון כבוד השם על הר סיני, ויכסהו הענן 6 ימים, ויקרא אל משה ביום השביעי מתוך הענן, ומראה כבוד השם כאש אוכלת בראש ההר לעיני בני ישראל. ויבוא משה בתוך הענן, ויעל אל ההר, ויהי משה בהר 40 יום ו40 לילה. Okay, so Moshe goes up the mountain. He doesn't go all the way up. Then the cloud comes down, covers the mountain. Hashem Shekhinah rests upon the mountain. And then on the 7th day, Hashem calls to Moshe, and he goes up higher. And he's there for 40 days and 40 nights. Now, this is actually parallel to the very end of Sefer Shemot, where Perek Mem, Pasuk Lamed Daled, if we flip ahead, so we have the same kind of thing. ויכס הענן את אור המועד, כבוד השם מלא את המשכן, ולא יכול משה לבוא אור המועד כי שכן עליו הענן, וכבוד השם מלא את המשכן. And then Parshat Vaikra, Sefer Vaikra opens also with Hashem calling out to Moshe, and it could be that there also was 7 days, 6 days, and then Hashem called him. I don't know, but this parallel from the end of Parashat Mishpatim, which parallels the end of Sefer Shemot. Now, in terms of the story, the last pasuk of Parashat Mishpatim is opening up this next part, and Parashat Truma seems to be what Hashem told Moshe during those 40 days. And this is a very long section that deals with one very long and detailed command about the Mishkan. It kind of gives this feeling that the Mishkan is like this continuation of Har Sinai. We're going to get back to that idea later on. Okay, so then from the beginning of Parshat Truma, which is Perek Kaf Hey, up until Lamed Aleph Yud Zayin in Parshat Ki Tisa, we have this one section of Hashem commanding Moshe to build the Mishkan. But there are also subsections that detail each part of the building, each of the kelim and the structure, etc. And this list of things repeats a whole slew of times throughout Sefer Shemot. And okay, so that's the general context. Now, if we look, for example, at the list when Moshe gives over the commandment to the people, which is later on at the beginning of Parashat Vayakel, and now I'm going to share my screen and we'll start to look at the sheet. Okay, so when he gives over the commandment to the people about building it, right, this is after he received the second luchot. So he talks about first the general structure, and then he goes through the kelim and he lists them. So let's just have a look at how the kelim are listed here, and we'll see if we can come up with any kind of an inner logic to the way that they're listed here, okay? So we have the aron and the kaporet, and the shulchan, and the menorah, and the mizbach haktoret, the mizbach ha'olah, and the kior, and then we have the chatzer, and then the stuff about the kehuna. So can anybody think of like what's behind this way that the list is ordered here? If you want help, you can look at the little diagram.
From the most important.
From the most important, okay. Is the Mizbach HaOlah not important?
Oh, what has the luchot in it? I would say, and where Hashem speaks to him is the most important.
Correct. But can we say that there is, can we use that and say that there is a progression that goes through all of these? Like, I agree that is the most important thing, but can you say that the whole list is listed from most important to least important? I'm not sure we can say that if the Mizbach HaOlah is here.
No, but it definitely starts with the.
Yeah, I agree. Anybody else have an idea? Okay, so I think that, I mean, if we just look at the diagram, we can see that it seems to be geographical, right? Going from the inside to the outside. Starts with the Aron and the Kapor and the Kruvim that are in the Kodesh HaKodashim, then the things that are in the Kodesh, and then the things that are in the Chatzer. Okay, so that's the order, and it's a logical order that we see again when he gives over this commandment. But if we look at the list the first time that it's listed, in the beginning of Parshat Truma, the list is not the same, and there are a few things that seem to be in strange places, and two of them happen to be in our Parsha. So let's just look. I have it kind of just listed here for you, the general structure of how it is in the initial command. And okay, so it starts with these opening psukim, we'll get back to that. And then we have the aron, the kapor, and the kruvim, the shulchan, and the menorah. Then we have the walls of the mishkan and the beams, the parochet, which separates the kodesh and the kodesh kodashim, the mizbach ha'olah, and then the chatzer. Then we have the command to light the menorah, the bigdei kohanim, the yemei hamiluim. Then we have psukim that are clearly, we call psukei chatima, these closing psukim that are parallel to the opening psukim that we saw, and we'll get back to that as well. And then we have the mizbach haktoret, the machatzit shekel, the kior, the making of the Ketoret and the Shemen HaMishcha, the appointment of Bitzalel, who's going to be the maker of all this, and the commandment about Shabbat. So there are three things here that I want to draw our attention to that seem to be strange in terms of where they're placed. The first one is this, the commandment to light the menorah. Where would we expect that to be? Next to the menorah, right? That would make sense. But it's not put there. It's put here, like after everything and after the chatzer. So that's one thing that seems weird. The second thing is something that's clearly missing from the Kodesh is the Mizbach HaKtoret, right? In the first list, and again, if we were going really in order of inside out, Mizbach HaKtoret would be here with the Shulchan and the Menorah, things that are in the Kodesh. And that only appears later on here after these closing psukim. And the third kli, or the second kli that's out of place, the third thing, is the kior, which again, in the first list, and if we were going really from inside out, should be over here by the Mizbach HaOlav, things that are in the Chatzer. And also here, the kior is put after these closing psukim in this other section. Not clear why it's put here. Okay, so these are three anomalies in the order of the way that it's commanded in the initial command. And so we're going to try and understand why these things are out of place. Okay, so my Tanakh professor from Bar Ilan, who I've mentioned here, I mentioned him also the last time that I taught here, and really pretty much anything I learned about how to learn Tanakh and much of the material that I teach is thanks to him. So he attempts to explain each of these anomalies. So I'm going to present his take, and then I'm going to take it one step further, specifically with the Mizbach HaKtor. So that's what we're going to do now for the rest of our share. Okay, so we're going to start with the commandment to light the menorah. So let's read these psukim. So let's turn to Perak Kaf Zayin, Pasuk Kaf. And okay, this is the opening of our Parashah Tetzaveh. V'ata Tetzaveh et bnei Yisrael v'ikhu elecha shemen zayit zach katit la'meor laha'alot ner tamid ba'ohel mo'ed michutz la'parochet asher al ha'edut yaroch oto Aharon uvanav me'erev ad boker lifnei Hashem chukat olam l'dorotam me'et bnei Yisrael. Okay, so they have to take this shemen, and where's this place? Where's the menorah? We know that it's on the other side of the parochet. And the Kohanim are going to light this mi'erev ad boker. It's going to be lit from night till morning. Chukat olam l'dorotichem. Okay, so it could be that maybe the reason that it's not next to the menorah, or that it seems to be out of place, is that maybe this is a commandment that is kind of, obviously it's not separate from the menorah, but it's separate commandment of having something lit all the time. Right, lahalot ner tamid. And understanding this is dependent on a machloket rishonim of how we understand the word tamid here. So Rashi says tamid means kol laila v'laila karui tamid, every night. Kmo she'ata omer olat tamid, ve'eno ela miyom liyom, just like we have the korban tamid, which happens every day. And just another example of minchat chavitin, where also it says tamid, and they don't mean this is all the time constant. It means that it happens every day, half of it in the morning, half of it in the evening. But he does mention at the end that there is another way to understand the word tamid. So about tamid ha'amor b'lechem ha'panim mishabat l'shabbat too. By lechem ha'panim, he admits that tamid there means that it's sitting there throughout the whole week, but he thinks that here in this case of the ner tamid, that it just means every day. So that doesn't really help us. But the Ramban understands differently. So first the Ramban brings Rashi, and then he says, Umidrash Rabotenu eino kach. This is not how Chazal understood this. Ela kach shanu basifrei ya'iru shivat hanerot. Okay, so the pasuk in Baalotcha says that the 7 nerot should be lit. Shomea ani sheyu dokim leolam. So I could understand from here that they should always be lit. It says, no, Talmud lomar, we'll have a different pasuk. Mi'erev ad boker, it says just from the night till the morning. So how do we... So, okay, so if we say it only from night till the day, maybe you would say that they should be lit only from the night till the morning, and then we'll put them out. Talmud lomar ya'iru shivat hanerot. This first pasuk that we mentioned, that no, they should be lit. So how do we kind of reconcile these two things? Hakitzad ya'iru shivat hanerot me'erav ad boker lifnei Hashem tamid sheyehi ner ma'aravi dolech tadir. That there's one candle, one lamp, that is always lit. That is what they call the ner ha'maravi. And in this last paragraph here, he goes into details of different opinions of which candle that exactly is. We're not going to go into that. But this is the one that's dolek tadir. It's always lit. And that's the one that they use to light the other ones from. So if we understand, like the Ramban, that tamid here means that it's lit all the time, then maybe it is this separate mitzvah that maybe, has to do with this, maybe to symbolize like this constant light that's coming out to the world through the Shekhinah or something like that. And maybe it's like a separate mitzvah. But still, it's not so convincing because, right, it still is connected to the menorah. So it still makes sense for me to have it be next to the menorah, even if it's a different mitzvah with a different focus. So in order to fully understand the role of the menorah in this hadlaka, I want to look at the broader structure of the Mishkan. The Mishkan, as we saw up here, let's go back to our diagram, is made up of 2 rooms. Each room serves a different kind of a purpose, much like all of our homes, which have at least 2 rooms, and each room has a different kind of a purpose. So we have the Kodesh, which is kind of like the living room, right? We have a table and we have a lamp, and that's the place where, guests come in and they come in to meet with the Baal Habayit. So that's the Kodesh. And on the other hand, we have the Kodesh HaKodashim, which is kind of like the bedroom. It's a private place where, the doors are most of the time closed and only very select people go inside. And Rashi in Sefer Melachim actually makes this comparison of the Kodesh Kodashim to a bedroom. Just a little bit of context here, just like throwing us randomly into Sefer Melachim. We have Queen Atalia, who is Queen of Yehuda, and her son, who's the actual king, is killed by the king of Israel, and she basically seizes the throne and kills off all the remaining seed in order to hold on to it. But her grandson is saved by Yehosheva, her stepdaughter, and he's hidden. So see here, ותיקח יושבה בת מלך יורם אחות אחזיהו את יואש בן אחזיה, ותגנוב אותו מתוך בני המלך המומתים אותו, ואת מניקתו בחדר המיטות. She hides him in the bedroom, ויסתיר אותו מפני עתליה ולא הומת, and she hides him from Atalia. ויהי איתה בית השם, and he's hiding with her in the בית המקדש 6 שנים, for 6 years. ועתליה מולכת על הארץ. So Rashi here makes a connection between Cheder HaMitot and the fact that he is being hidden in the Beit HaMikdash. And he says, what is the Cheder HaMitot of Beit HaMikdash? The Cheder HaMitot, Ba'aliyat Beit Kodesh HaKodashim, like the attic, the top part of the Kodesh HaKodashim, כמו שאומר, ויהי איתה בית השם מתחבא. And then he brings some other psukim that have this other connotation. Okay. So we have these 2 rooms, and the 2 rooms are actually linked by 2 pairs of kelim that are situated there. So we have on the one hand the Aron in the Kodesh Kodashim, which is parallel to the Shulchan that's in the Kodesh, and we have the Kruvim in the Kodesh Kodashim, which is parallel to the Menorah. Why do I say that they're parallel? Because the way that they're described in the psukim and the similar attributes that they have. So let's have a look. both the Aron and the Shulchan are made of atzei shitim that are covered in zahav tahor, and they both have this zer zahav saviv, this kind of wreath that surrounds it. I have actually put a picture here. This is the zer zahav saviv on the Shulchan, and the zer zahav saviv here. So that is the Aron and the Shulchan. The Kruvim and the Menorah have a couple of similarities as well. So both of them are made out of Zahav Tahor, that's Miksha. Miksha means one solid piece of gold that it's carved out from. And with each one, it describes things that are coming out of it from either side. So, right, the Kruvim come out of the kaporet. From the two sides. Min hakaporet, they're coming out of it. On the two sides. And parallel to that, with the menorah, we have shisha kanim yotzim mitzideha. And mimena these the branches of the menorah are coming out from the two sides. And then it goes into further detail about this. Kruv echad mikatze mizeh, v'kruv echad mikatze mizeh. One kruv on this side and one kruv on that side, and the same thing with the branch of the menorah. Shlosha kanei menorah mitzida ha'echad, u'shlosha kanei menorah mitzida hasheni. And both of them mention this kind of each one facing the other, so to speak. So we have upneihem, the kruvim, ish el achiv, el kapor tihiu pnei hakruvim, that they're mamash facing each other, and a little bit of similar wording by the menorah, veheir al ever paneha. Okay, so these parallel kelim, which on the one hand connects the two rooms. On the other hand, the two rooms are very, very different in terms of their purpose. And we can see this through how man stands before God in each room. So in the Kodesh HaKodashim, right, Hashem reveals himself to man face to face. And that's the place where he speaks to Moshe from, right? We see in Shemot Kafeh when it talks about the kaporet. ונתתי את הכפורת אל הארון מלמעלה, ואל הארון תיתן את העדות אשר אתן אליך, ונועדתי לך שם. I'm going to meet with you there, ודיברתי איתך, I'm going to speak to you from above the kaporet, between the two grouping, right? And we also know this concept of like pe el pe, Hashem speaks to Moshe. Pe el pe darabo mar'eh lo b'chidot etmurat Hashem yabit. So this kodesh, the kodesh kodashim, is this intimate place where God reveals himself to man, to Moshe. And after Moshe, there's no more direct speech from God, but we still have this constant, I would say, speech from God that comes out of the luchot that are there through the Torah. So that's in terms of the Kodesh HaKodashim. The Kodesh, on the other hand, is the place where man turns to God and worships him. He lights the lamp, he sets the table, he burns the Torah. And in this room, in the Kodesh, really the emphasis is on man turning to God, and as opposed to the Kodesh HaKodashim, where the emphasis is on Moshe. In the Kodesh, the emphasis is on Aaron and his sons. And so just as this speech to Moshe between the two Kruvim is like the pinnacle of Hashem's relationship to the people as is expressed in the Kodesh HaKodashim, it's parallel, right? The parallel that we saw of the Kruvim is the menorah. This maybe we can see it as the pinnacle of Hashem's relationship to the people in the Kodesh, and the pinnacle of the Avodat Kohanim, where man is turning to God, and maybe this comes to symbolize all of the Avodat Kohanim. And it's also interesting, just a side point, to note this extra significance that the menorah takes on in the second Beit HaMikdash. We don't have in our own there anymore, and we don't have any more direct revelation. And this really, becomes the symbol of everything in that time. So because this menorah is going to symbolize all of the avodat kohanim, it's fitting, if we go back to our list and where this commandment of lighting the menorah is situated, it's fitting then that it's going to open up this whole section about the Kohanim. And that's really the next thing that we see is discussion of the Big Day Kahuna, what the Kohanim wear, and the Yemei HaMiluim, where we anoint them and they kind of get trained for their job. And if we just go back into the Psukim for 1 second, this commandment of lighting the menorah is bookended with mentions of Bnei Israel. It says, V'ata Tetzaveh et Bnei Israel in the first pasuk. And then at the end again, it says, Lifnei Hashem chokat olam l'dorotam me'et Bnei Israel. So I think that this fact that Bnei Israel is mentioned twice here, and that they're emphasizing that the oil for this job is provided by Bnei Israel, really shows us what the job of the Kohanim is. It's to represent the whole nation. And this, we're calling the pinnacle job, or what represents all of the Avodat Kohanim, is dependent on the people providing that, right? That shows that he can't do his job without the people, and that his whole job is to represent the people in their turning to God. And so right before this description of the Kohanim, these special people who have these special job, it's going to emphasize that all of this, everything that they're doing is only, for the entire nation. It's also interesting to note that both Parashat Truma and Parashat Tetzaveh are opening up with something about the people bringing materials for something in the Mishkan. Okay, so that is in terms of the Ner Tamid and why it's mentioned here, opening up the section of Kehuna rather than being put next to the menorah. Now we're going to move to the Mizbach HaKtoret and the Kiyor. So if we again look at our list here, both of these are coming after these Psukei Chatima. And let's just read this pasuk. Let's go to Kaftet Mem Gimel. Okay. Right, so we had at the very beginning of the commandments to build the Mishkan, right? Hashem says, "V'shachanti b'toch, v'asu li mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham." Okay, that's how it opens. And here, these closing psukim, Memhei v'shachanti b'toch b'nei Yisrael, v'ayiti lehem l'Elohim, v'yadu ki ani Hashem Elohechem asher hotzeiti otam me'eretz Mitzrayim l'shochni b'tocham ani Hashem Elokechem. So this theme of Hashem being shochen, that the Shekhinah is sitting on the Mishkan, that's bookending this commandment. Yet the Mizbach HaKtoret and the Kiyor are both in this original list after these ending psukim. Right? And we said the Mizbach HaKtoret should be in the Kodesh, and the Kiyor should be in the Chatzir. And then if we just look at the rest of this for a second and ignore these two things, right? We have the Mechatzita Shekel, the preparation of the Ketoret and the Shemen HaMishcha, the appointment of B'Tzalel, and Shabbat. So this whole section kind of seems to be like a hashlama to the commandment of the important things in the Mishkan, right? Like an appendix. And all of these things in this appendix are needed in order to allow these other things to happen. So, right, there's a commandment to pour the oil. Oh, this is how you make the oil. You have to make the kelim. Oh, here's the person who's going to do it. We need money for this whole endeavor, so collect the machatzit shekel, etc., etc. All these things are machshir this building and what allow it to function, but they're not things that are like really part of it. So maybe we can say the same thing about the Mizbach HaKtoret and the Kiyor. Let's see. So we'll start with the Kiyor. So let's flip to those psukim. So that's in Perek Lamed, Pasuk Yud Zayin. Next. Okay. וידבר השם על משה לאמור, ועשית כיור נחושת, וקרנו נחושת לרחצה, ונתת אותו בין אוהל מועד ובין המזבח, ונתת שם המים, ורחצו אהרון ובניו ממנו את ידיהם ואת רגליהם, בבואם אל אוהל מועד, ירחצו מים, ולא ימותו, או בגישתם על המזבח לשרת, להקטיר אישה להשם. ורחצו ידיהם ורגליהם ולא ימותו, והייתה להם חוק עולם לו ולזרעו לדורותם. So what is the purpose of the kior? Anyway. Okay, so from the psukim, it seems that the purpose of the kior, right, that it's not like one of these basic kelim, right, that we need for the avodat mishkan, like in terms of the actual doing the avodah, but it's serving this side purpose, which is to allow the kohanim to do their job. They need to be cleansed. They need to be purified in order to be able to work in the mishkan and not die. So we can see this in a bunch of ways, that this is not like the regular kelim. So if we look here in source 14, when it talks about how they actually made the kior, it says vayas et kior nechoshet ve'et kano nechoshet b'marot hatzavot asher tzavu petach ohel moed. The kior is made from mirrors.
Rashi writes on that.
Yeah. What does he say? I don't remember.
He writes that the women brought these mirrors, and Moshe was hesitant upon receiving them. Hashem tells him, no, it's a good thing, and you should receive it. They were the mirrors that they used in Mitzrayim.
Nachon. So this is different from all of the other kelim and all the other types of trumot that were brought for the other kelim. So that's in one way. And also in Sefer Bamidbar, when it talks about how the kelim were carried when they travel. So again, we have another time a list of everything, and the kior is missing, right? We have the aron, like how they cover them before they travel. We have aron ha'edut and shulchan hapanim, and the menorah me'or and the mizbach hazahav and the mizbeach, and that's the end. And there's no kior here. So we see that it's not really part of these main kelim, and it's here to serve this side purpose, like something very, very technical. Okay, so let's see if we can maybe say the same thing about the Mizbach HaKtoret. Okay, so let's read the psukim about the Mizbach HaKtoret, which is the beginning of Perek Lamed. ועשית מזבח מקטר קטורת, עצי שיטים, תעשו אותו, אמר ארכו ואמר רוחבו, רבוע יהיה, ו200 קומתו ממנו, קרנותיו. וציפית אותו זהב טהור, את גגו ואת קירותיו סביב, ואת קרנותיו, ועשית לו זר זהב סביב. ושתי טבעות זהב תעשה לו, מתחת לזרו, על שתי צלעותיו תעשה, על שני צידיו, והיה לבטים לבדים לשאת אותו בהם. ועשית את הבדים עצי שיטים, וציפית אותה זהב. This is reminiscent to the Aron and the Shulchan, right? ונתת אותו לפני הפרוכת, אשר על ארון העדות, לפני הכפורת, אשר על העדות, אשר יבעט לך שמה. Whoa, this is a very interesting and very long-winded description of where this thing is being placed. And we'll get back to that in a second. והקטיר עליו אהרון קטורת סמים, בבוקר בהיטיבות הנרות יקטירנה, ובהעלות אהרון את הנרות בין הערביים יקטירנה קטורת תמיד לפני השם לדורותיכם, לא תעלו עליו קטורת זרה, ועולה ומנחה, ונסך לא תסחו עליו, לכפר אהרון על קרנותיו אחת בשנה מדם חטאת הכיפורים, אחת בשנה יכפר עליו לדורותיכם, קודש קודשים הוא להשם. Sorry, just one second. Oh, I'm sorry, I did not mute myself. Apologize. Okay, so the Mizbach HaKtor and the way that it's built, we see is reminiscent of the Shulchan and the Aron, and that it's wood that is covered in gold, and we have the wreath around it as well, and we have the carrying rods, and this pasuk, where does it go? In front of the parochet, lifnei parochet asher al Aron ha'idut, which is in front of here. It means Aron ha'idut, which is in front of the kaporet, which is on the Aron ha'idut. And this is the place where I reveal myself to you. So we see that there's this really strong link between the Mizbach HaKtoret and the Aron and what happens in the Kodesh HaKodashim. So that's on the one hand. On the other hand, it's also linked to the menorah. Why is it linked to the menorah? Because this bringing the ketoret, the lighting of the ketoret, happens at the same time. The first time, b'ha'alot Aharon et hanerot ben ha'arbayin ekterena ketoret milifnei Hashem ledorotechem. So he puts the ketoret there at the same time when he lights the nerot of the menorah. Okay. What else do we have here? Right, that this is only for Ketoret, it's for nothing else, no Ketoret Zara and no Korbanot. And once a year it needs kapara, and so Aaron puts the dam chatat on its karnot on Yom Kippur. Okay. Now if we go back to the literary framework that we saw just now, that bookends this main section of the commandment to build a Mishkan, we see that the entire purpose of the Mishkan is that the Shekhinah is going to rest on Bnei Israel, just like it did on Har Sinai. Right, it opens up again, V'asuli mikdash v'shachanti betocham, and ends with v'shachanti betoch Bnei Israel, v'iti lahem Elohim. So, right, we see that the Mishkan is coming to kind of perpetuate the Sinai experience, and this is what the Ramban says. He says, "V'sod haMishkan hu sheyeh hakavod asher shachan al Har Sinai shochen alav b'nistar." The same kavod of Hashem which rested on Har Sinai is going to rest on the Mishkan as well. Kmo shene'amar sham v'shkon kavod Hashem al Har Sinai, just like we have that over there. Excuse me. Uktiv v'hein har'anu Hashem elkeinu et kavodo et godlo. כן כתוב במשכן וכבוד השם מילת המשכן. והזכיר במשכן 2 פעמים כבוד השם מילת המשכן, כנגד את כבודו ואת גודלו, והיה במשכן תמיד עם ישראל הכבוד שנראה להם בהר סיני. The Mishkan, they're going to have in the Mishkan the same exact kavod of Hashem that appeared to them in Har Sinai, that's going to be on the Mishkan tamid. ובבוא משה היה אליו הדיבור אשר נדבר, how do we say that? That was spoken to him, nevertheless, either way, on Har Sinai. So the same dibur that Moshe received on Har Sinai is going to happen as well in the Mishkan. Now, if we think about it, there are a lot of parallels between the Mishkan and what happened at Har Sinai. Can anybody think of any? Parallels between the Mishkan and Har Sinai? All right, I will list a few. So we have the Aron in the Mishkan, right, that holds the Luchot Habrit that were given at Sinai, and this Brit was made at Sinai, so that's one. Number 2 is the Mizbeach that we have in the Mishkan. We also had a Mizbeach on Har Sinai, right? We see here שמו כ"ד, ויבן מזבח תחת ההר, ויעלו עולות ויזבחו זבחים שלמים להשם parim. Okay, so at Har Sinai they built a mizbeach and they brought korbanot there. So that is another thing, and obviously what we said before, that the Ramban brought up, that Hashem speaks to Moshe in the Mishkan from the Kerim, just like he spoke to him at Har Sinai. And we also have these different levels of closeness, right? We have at Har Sinai, right, the people stayed at the foot of the mountain, right? And then we have the Kohanim going a little bit further. And then who goes up the furthest? That's Moshe and maybe Aaron go up to the top. And this is similar to in the Mishkan, where, right, we have the people who can be in the Chatzer, we have the Kohanim who can go into the Kodesh, and Moshe and Aaron can go into the Kodesh HaKodashim. Now, perhaps most significantly, at least significantly for us, in our topic of the Mizbach HaKtoret, Hashem's presence on Har Sinai is accompanied by a cloud that comes down with it. And we see this here in Shmot Yutet, right? Hinei anochi ba elecha be'av ha'anan. And skipping down, Vahi b'yom hashlishi b'yot haboker, Vahi kolot u'brakim va'anan kaved al ha'har, v'har Sinai ashan kulo. When God reveals himself on Har Sinai to Bnei Israel, it is accompanied by this cloud. And in fact, whenever we see Revelation, we have some sort of a cloud that accompanies the Shekhinah and serves as a sort of like a buffer or a cover to blur the revelation, right? Because we can't see God directly. In Sefer Yechezkel, when the Shekhinah is about to leave the city, Hashem tells the Malach to put take coals, and to spread them around the city so that we have this anan, right? So that the Shekhinah can, which is revealed there, can leave in this smoke cloud that's created. So if we turn back to the Mizbach HaKtoret, we know from the psukim about the Avodat Yom Kippur, right, that that in the Mishkan, Hashem reveals himself through the Kerurim, but with the presence of this cloud from the Ketoret, right? ויאמר שלום משה דבר אל אהרון אחיך ואל יבוא בכל עת אל הקודש מבית לפרוכת על פני הכפורת אשר על הארון ולא ימות, כי בענן אראה אל הכפורת. So let's skip down, right? Aaron can't come into the Kodesh HaKodashim because Hashem needs to appear in a cloud. And so what does he have to do? Let's skip to Pasuk Yud-Bet. ולקח מלוא המחצג גחלי אש מעל המזבח מלפני השם ומלוא חופניו כתורת סמים דקה והביא בית לפרוכת ונתן את הקטורת על האש לפני השם וכיסה ענן את הקטורת וכיסה ענן הקטורת את הכפורת אשר על העדות ולא ימות. Okay, so he needs a ketoret to make this cloud so that he doesn't die. So the purpose of the Ketor on Yom Kippur is to cloud this revelation, right? Aaron is taking the Ketor into a place where there generally is not Ketor, so that he can go into the place where there is revelation. And so it could be that even during the regular time when it's not Yom Kippur, this is also the role of the Ketor when it's in the Kodesh, that it needs to be in a place where the Kohanim are present next to this revelation, next to the Hit Galut, because symbolically the place where Hashem is revealed, and there's this meeting between the Shekhinah and people, it needs some kind of a kisui, some kind of a covering. Okay, so the Mizbach HaKtoret therefore is going to serve this purpose of creating a cloud that allows the Shekhinah to appear and rest in the Mishkan. Chazal say that really you don't even need the Mizbeach like the Mizbach HaKtor is not what's important. You could even like take the Ktor and put it on a pan, because it's not about the Mizbech, it's about what it does. And just like the Kiyor is what allows, what purifies the Kohanim and cleanses them and allows them to do their avodah, so too the Mizbach HaKtoret is what allows the Mishkan to serve its purpose, which is what? The purpose of being this place of Hashrat Hashchina. And the Ramban hints to this as well. So he brings up our question of why is the Mizbach HaTorah put here and not where we would think it should be. So he says, Vasita Mizbach Miktar Ketoret. Hine Mizbach HaKtoret Mina Kelim HaPnimiyim Hayad. Wait a minute, this is one of the inner Kelim. Ra'oi Shezkirenu. It should have been mentioned with the shulchan and the menorah where it actually is placed. Just as we see how it's mentioned together with them, in the actual commanding of Bnei Yisrael to do it in Parashat Vayakel, which we saw at the beginning of that very, very nicely organized list. והטעם להזכירו כאן אחר המשכן וכל כליו והקורבנות בעבור שאמר בתשלום הכל ונקדש בכבודי ושכנתי בתוך בני ישראל. Right, the reason that it is mentioned here after the Mishkan and all the kelim and all the korbanot of the Mehmili he's talking about, and after these closing psukim, is because of what it says at the end of everything. ונקדש בכבודי ושכנתי בתוך בני ישראל. Okay, that you're going to be mukdash with my kavod, and I will be shochen, I will rest upon Bnei Israel. Amar ki od yitchayev lehem sheyasu mizbach miktar ktor laktir lichavod Hashem. This whole thing is for the glory of Hashem, the glory of Hashem, to be able to rest on the Mishkan. V'lechein amar kan, and that's why it was said here. That's why it says here, "V'natata oto lifnei haparochet asher al aron ha'edut lifnei hakaporat asher al ha'edut asher iva'ed lecha shama." Right? We notice this very, very long and deliberate description of where it is placed. And he says, "Kimat tzorach la'arit b'kol ele." Why does it need to like say it in such a lengthy way? V'lo amar. Why couldn't he simply have just said, "V'natata oto lifnei aron ha'edut b'ol moed"? Right? That's you put it lifnei, meaning across from the Aron and the Ol Moed, right? Because it's literally directly across. It's between the menorah and the shulchan. It's on the same axis, and that's the whole point, because it has to cloud that. Kasher amar b'parashat Pikudei. Aval hu lehorot al inyano. The whole reason of this lengthy description of where we're putting it is to teach you about what its purpose is, right? Its purpose is to be right across from the Aron, so that it can create this cloud that will allow the Shekhinah to rest there on the Aron on top of the Kaporet, and allow for the whole purpose of the Mishkan to happen. So on the one hand, right, we said that it's linked to the menorah because it's something that happens at the same time. Right, this is the first thing that has to be done when the Kohen goes into the room. He lights the lights and he brings the Ketor, and that's going to then allow for everything else to happen in the Mishkan. Right, and again, as the Ramban says, the whole thing is for the glory of Hashem, the glory of Hashem to be able to rest there. And so if we understand the Mizbach HaKtor this way, then we see also that just like the Kior, this is a machshir of the avodah of the Mishkan, but it's not directly part of the avodah. Okay, so this is where Professor Grossman leaves it, and so I think that it's very interesting, and it certainly explains why the Mizbach HaKtor is an appendix to the other kelim of the Mishkan. But it's a technical answer, right? And it still leaves the question of why here in the Mishkan, as opposed to, say, Ma'amad Har Sinai, does this cloud have to be man-made, right? Rather than automatically coming down with the revelation of the Shekhinah like it does in Ma'amad Har Sinai. And I think that this speaks to the role of the Mishkan as something which brings the relationship with Hashem into our daily lives and is part of our our daily routine of how we live, and not just like some really impressive and very overwhelming one-time experience or event like Ma'amad Har Sinai. Right, when asked where God can be found, the Kotzker Rebbe very famously says, wherever you let him in, right? So in order for us to have this constant relationship with Hashem, we need to want it, and we need to show that we want it. And so how do we do that? Right, having us need to create this cloud shows Hashem that we want Hashrat Shekhinah, that we want this constant relationship with him, and that we're going to create the perfect conditions, all of the conditions that are necessary for it to happen, and invite him to have this mifgash with us, right? So here we're initiating this relationship with Hashem, as opposed to Ma'amad Har Sinai, where it came from Hashem. And I think that this symbolizes, even today, when we don't have a mikdash or a mishkan anymore, that if we want to have this constant relationship with Hashem, then we need to initiate it and to actively bring Hashem into our lives. So that's all I've got. I see we ended a little bit early, but if there's any questions, comments, be happy to hear.
Let me just see if there's any comments on Facebook. Okay. Well, I hope you get some rest. Thank you so much, Daphna, for this wonderful class, and I hope you feel better and get some rest.
Thank you.
Thank you also to everyone who joined us today, not only here on Zoom, but also on live on Facebook. And just a couple announcements that this Sunday we have a class with Rabbi Silber, who will be teaching Mishnah in depth, Masechet Nedarim at 1 p.m. It's a continuation of the previous Mishnah in depth classes following the Mishnah Yomit schedule. And also next week, Dr. Hanan Gafni will be teaching on Parashat Kitisa on Thursday for this class. Thank you so much again, Daphna. Feel better.
Thank you.
Bye.